Hi, I'm Cam. I'm your corporate auntie, heavy on the tea, and a retired recruiter. And I love this question so much because it says, so HR is lazy to hunt for talent. I can say yes, I can. But allow me to geek out. Save this video for later because I do think I'm going to drop a number of gems that will also help you understand why it's important to somewhat use an external recruiter. I'm going to be a little bit biased in this video because I am an external recruiter, but I think it's very important for you to understand the logic behind what I'm about to say. So, as an external recruiter, especially back in the day, they used to use a very explicit term, especially for executive term, which is headhunter. What does that mean? And that's why I say I love the statement so much. That means we hunt for talent. Meaning, I'm not sitting behind my screen waiting for an ATS or a system to fill up. I am proactively going out to the market to find this talent. What does that look like? That looks like, and I'll use the banking industry as an example, and I hope you follow. So if I have a banking person who says, hey, I'm looking for a solutions architect. Tip one, I'm going to start in the industry. A lot of you guys, when you look for jobs, don't understand how important industry is. I say this because companies don't like training people. There, I said it. They don't like it. They don't like it. And I can give you lots of stats of why companies don't like training people. So what they would rather do is pay a recruiter a ridiculous amount of money versus training someone, which is crazy to me. But anyway, we're here. So what does that mean for you? Unfortunately, it leaves a very small pool of talent that I can actually get. And most of the talent that I'm looking for is not applying for roles. Now, is companies actually like inactive candidates? What does that mean? That means a person who is currently employed, happy at their job, and three, working for the competitor. What does that mean for you? That means if I'm being commissioned, for example, by ABSA is looking for candidates at Capitec, FNB, Standard Bank, Africa Bank, Citibank, etc. They're not looking for, let's say, a solutions architect anywhere else besides those specific industries. Why? Because they have the advantage of getting someone from their competitor. Two, they also know that this candidate is going to be an easy plug and play. Yes, they will have to onboard them and just show them the ropes, but more often than not, this person knows the similar systems that are used. They know the industry, so they don't have to train them on what banking is. They know the intricacies of the industry. When industry fails me, right? The next step I go to is neighboring industries or parallel industries or horizontal industries. That means industries like fintech. That means industries like other financial institutions outside of, the core banking function. And if that doesn't work, I go vertically. What does that mean? That means I'm going to dev companies, right? So, for example, I would then look for IT companies that feed into the banking space. I'll give you an example. Someone like DAV. DAV has a group of Standard Bank developers. And then, only then, will I consider the ATS and the applications that I have, because I know that majority have 25% of qualified candidates, but within that 25%, probably only 5% come from the industry that I desire. More often than not, especially if it's headhunting, we have specialists. What does that mean? That means if I'm in the banking and finance space, I've placed a lot of candidates in that area. So I'm going to hit up my network. And I'm also going to hit up candidates in that space. And this is a trick that my mom taught me because she also comes from recruitment. And it works. It's crazy, but it works. So I'll call a candidate and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm not interested at this time. And I stroke the ego. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you're not interested, who do you know who's almost as amazing as you are that I can then hunt? What exactly is the role again? Then I tell them and I'm like, oh, and then these are the benefits and very rarely will I have somebody pass me over to somebody else. If anything, they're like, oh, actually, maybe I am interested. But nonetheless, that person, if they're not interested and they're like, oh no, it's too junior for me, they will normally give me somebody who, has reported into them once upon a time. I know you guys hate hearing this, but gear your LinkedIn for success. A lot of recruiters, both internal and external, use platforms like LinkedIn and get to understand your industry. And when I say get to understand your industry, know which platforms they use for job boards. So, for example, if you're an IT specialist, there are specific job boards like and other platforms like GitHub that are more effective than LinkedIn would be. You know, I mean, I've yeah. Let me try that again. Again, I have once worked in it was an archaeologist. Yes, an archaeologist role. Those people are not on LinkedIn. I had to find research papers and only then go back into like all job boards. And when I tell you that most of these candidates, I use Careers 24, I think, to find their contact details. And most of them, well, I didn't find them through their resumes, I actually found them through their referees because it's such a niche space. So we look for specialists in these specialized fields. When I look back in the day, when I looked for IT talent, I would start on Twitter, not X. That was before then. I would start on Twitter because that's where the talent was. So you need to know your industry. I cannot stress this enough because where is your industry hanging out? I can't stress networking enough, and I know you guys hate it, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to emphasize on networking. Know where your industry is. Another thing is like just going onto those LinkedIn groups with subject matter experts because I join those groups if the barriers to entry are very low, because some of them do require like some sort of certification. But if they're not that strict, I get into those groups and I look for talent in there. So is HR lazy to hunt for talent? I'm can't defend the entire industry. I can only speak for myself and some of my colleagues. No, unfortunately, we go to the ends of the world to find the right talent because it puts food on the table.